Hey, what's up guys, this is KDCloudy, and a couple of weeks ago I made this video on the OG Pixel 1, revisiting that phone a couple of years later, and I thought why not just go all the way in and take a look at this really iconic smartphone from 2013, the Nexus 5, the OG, and my favorite smartphone of all time. Like, this phone actually came out quite a while ago, 2013, that was 6.5, 7 years ago. I look like that back when I first bought it. It's really old. But yeah, jokes aside, the highest version of Android this phone supported officially from Google was Android 6.0 Marshmallow. But just for the sake of that 2013 feel, I went ahead and flashed Android 4.4 Kitkat on the smartphone. Yeah, like right out of the box, the Android KitKat holo design feels ancient yet quite nostalgic. Like, this is the pre-material design, pre-Google Assistant era. Everything is boxy, black, and has this mechanical vibe throughout the UI. Like accessing the quick tiles, that old brightness slider, the navigation bar, all of this feels so old yet quite refreshing and also nostalgic. But yeah, it's definitely fascinating to see the roots of all the Google apps, the smooth UI UX we all take for granted these days, and just to see the origins of all that. Just makes you appreciate the current user interface a little bit more. And KitKat itself wasn't a revolutionary update, it was a minimal incremental update back in the day, so it did not change the game or anything. But some of the features which Android KitKat pioneered are like the super minor stuff we take for granted today, like the transparent status bar. That was not a thing in Jelly Bean, lock screen album art, and that's about it actually. But you know what, let's now take a look at the hardware. The Nexus 5 was actually quite a beast back then. Like, this had flagship grade specs and offered this entire package in half the price from something like an iPhone 5s or even the Galaxy S4. Let me list out the specs for you. This phone had a 5-inch 1080p LCD display, a Snapdragon 800 chip, 2GB of RAM, 32GB of storage, 2300 mAh battery, 8 megapixel primary camera, 1.2 megapixel front camera. Also, here's a mind-blowing fact. This phone, a phone from 2013, supports Qi wireless charging. Take that OnePlus 8. But you know what, for a 7-year-old mid-range device, this holds up surprisingly well. It has a 1080p display, one of the first devices in 2013 to feature a 1080p display. And yes, it has bezels. No, it does not have front-facing speakers, but why even bother nitpicking now? The bottom line is, this design is one of my favorites. The soft touch plastic back is pretty beaten up, no thanks to me, I've used it for 5 years, but holding this device and using it with a matte black chassis is an absolute delight even to this date. It's a very lightweight phone thanks to the plastic, and it did not pretend to be premium. This was a $350 device back in the day, about 30k Indian rupees, and for that price, I think this phone absolutely slapped. I don't know why I used that word. But yeah, part of the reason was the performance. It had a flagship grade chip which made performance amazing, and browsing through KitKat is pretty much a breeze. Like, the Snapdragon 800 is not a weak chip. It supports recording 4K video, it's just the camera is not high-res enough. But yeah, I actually imported a 4K clip H.264 and it worked pretty fine. It did not break a sweat. The only thing which really doesn't hold up is the 2GB of RAM. Like, Android KitKat was supposed to show off how the minimum system requirements for Android. It was okay back then, but with future software updates, didn't really pan out. The phone also has micro USB, which is okay. A lot of devices still use it. Now, the one thing which really feels weird the first time you use it and actually use it properly is the lack of a fingerprint reader. And now, I'm not complaining or anything, but it's just weird not having a fingerprint reader on a smartphone. Now let's talk about the camera. If you didn't know already, this was the first ever phone to feature HDR+. So yeah, when you open that stock camera app, like, that's Gcam's granddaddy bitches. I won't go too much into image quality since the Nexus 5 wasn't even close to be the best camera back in 2013. But yeah, it is really interesting to see the first ever working version of HDR+, something which would put Google onto the top of the game. But yeah, overall this phone is really solid. Doesn't mean you should use it today, obviously not. But tells us a lot about the legacy this phone had. Maybe this is the most loved phone ever, the most iconic phone. Like, if you even check the XDA threads today, if you check the subreddit, people are still using this phone, they are holding on to it, and the development support has been amazing. There have been a whole bunch of custom ROMs and I've made tons of videos about them. This was the reason why this channel even took off in the first place. You can check them out. Like, even after the official updates, this phone got to see Android Nougat, Android Oreo, and Android Pie, thanks to software developers working hard on custom ROMs for this phone. And this was actually one of the first phones which defined the category of premium mid-range and paved the way for other smartphones like the OnePlus One and the Moto X. And I just wish smartphones could go back to what like the Nexus 5 was back in 2013. And yeah, like MKBHD said, if this phone actually got Snapdragon 865 for and was sold for like $400 today, I would happily use it. But I would definitely wish that the display was updated and the speakers were made front facing and it got USB Type-C, and the camera was also updated to their pixel image processing. All that's did I just describe a Pixel 4a? But yeah, that's about it. I have wanted to make this video since 2018 and finally got around to making this video. And I'm pretty sentimental about this phone since this is my first ever Android phone, and since this has been a huge part of this channel. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers. Also, one really underrated thing about the hollow design language from Kitkat is the way the phone locks like an old TV. See that nifty animation? It's amazing. I don't know, something really feels very satisfying about it. I could look at this all day. Definitely obsessed.